Hi, Michael.
Hello,
Hello, Michael.
Jim.
And it looks like that's Will joining. Hi, Brennan. Hi, Will.
Hello.
Doing well. How are y'all?
Thank you. So let's take, I'm not sure if I had met you, Bill. I might not have. I'm not sure. But let's take a couple steps here just to do a quick intro, and then we'll kick it over to you folks and let you start your demo. And I am Alicia Cordell. I'm a senior IT business analyst here at the town of Chapel Hill. And my role for this is to um, work with vendors for helping our internal team do vendor selection. And then I'll be involved in the contracts and the implementation and things of that sort. So I support Brennan and Michael and at the town of Chapel Hill. They are my customers. And Brennan and Michael, I'll let you introduce yourselves.
Good morning or afternoon. Michael Carew, Parking Services Manager for the town.
And hi, I'm Brennan Dalma. I'm the Sustainability Program Analyst. Sort of a subject matter expert, not nearly as much as y'all, but such as it is, just assisting in transferring the public-facing charging over to the management of parking services over time.
Thank you.
Will Barrett with
and
Zefenergy.
I'm Jim Bruette with Zefenergy.
Thank you, Will and Jim. I will just say before we get started here, we would like to see both your product and your software. And we would request after this meeting that at some point after this meeting, soon after, if you could give us a very detailed breakdown. If you're showing us today more than one product, we'd like to see the cost for each. If you have like multi-year versus single year, things of that sort. So we would ask for a detailed, itemized breakdown of cost and options that we would then be able to consider. And as you're going through doing your demo, we ask that you let us know if you want us to interrupt you with questions or if you would prefer to go through your demo and then answer have us ask our questions after you've gone through your demo. So just let me know that one first.
Okay. Yeah. So please ask questions as you have them. We can stop and answer them as they come up. I think that would be helpful for us too in kind of informing what we spend the most amount of time on or go into the most detail in covering. I think ahead of getting into it, it would be great to have like just a high level overview of like what your all's goals are, objectives, and sort of if you have specific applications for charging infrastructure in mind. I think that'll help us kind of make sure we hit the most appropriate points in this overview.
Sure, and we covered this in a previous meeting where we addressed any issues or concerns with our requirements document, ensuring that Jeff Energy would be able to meet our minimum requirements. So I will turn it over to Brendan and let him give you like a quick recap of what we're looking for. But I believe Jim has our problem statement and our requirements and things of that sort. And I believe, Jim, I provided a kind of agenda of what we're looking for here today that we'd like to see both your product as well as your software, kind of what we would look at it as far as the user, our staff, some of the transactions regarding, how the fees would be applied a high level overview of what the town is trying to accomplish?
Sure. Yeah. I think we have sort of a small project that has sort of triggered a slightly larger, more systematic look. So we have we have two charging stations that are failing or have failed in one location, and we want to replace them with four plugs instead of just the two. Um, we have permitting all set. We have an installer ready to go. We're just trying to pick a technology to go into that. Taking this opportunity to try to set some standards that we can apply for other locations that we have around town. Um, we have one vendor we're satisfied with, and we have about 20 stations that are public facing with them. And then we have another about 10 stations from another vendor that we're trying to get away from. Um, and as those begin to age out of their service contracts, we'd like to start replacing them with a solution that we identify here. So there is a small project and then slightly larger project and a continuing relationship there for replacement locations and new locations.
And are those all level 2?
Those are all level 2. Yeah, we're just dipping our toes into some DCFC solutions for fleet and public facing, but this conversation I think would be most focused on the level 2 services, and it'd be interesting to know if you have a DCFC solution, just in case that's a future conversation that we should think about.
Okay, and these are all public facing? Did I catch
Yeah.
that correctly?
That's right. We have about 10 plugs that are fleet only, and then somewhere around 30 that are networked and public facing.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So my thought on what we could do is give you a quick sort of introduction to Zeph. And then, depending on how you guys want to look at it, do you want to look at hardware first or software first? Because we can kind of go through either. I would say that as we go through software, we talk about a lot of different potential applications and implementations on how that software platform can be used to manage the equipment in different scenarios. So that's generally how we walk through it. And I, want to use the time in the way that kind of best aligns with what you guys are interested in. But do you have a preference on hardware or software first?
What we would really like to see, excuse me, is of course giving us an overview of your company and the experience you have, and things as far as like where are you as far as other places? Are you in other states, and how far expansion? Things like just a little bit about the background of your company. You don't have to give great detail about that, but we would then like to know about your products. If you only have one product or one device, if you have multiple devices, if you have Buy America, Build America, and then you have some that maybe aren't BAA compliant, just let us know that. And then your software, again, for your software, we'd like to see how we would use it on our end, what the end user or the customer would be seeing on their end, or the drivers would be seeing on their end. We want to know about warranties and service level support, those kinds of things. So you can run with whichever one you want first, as long as we cover it all.
One question just to clarify, for these level 2 chargers, is a credit card reader a requirement?
No, it's not.
No, it's not. Okay.
Great. Yeah, I'll jump in here. Let's see. Let me share my screen. Just move this real quick. think I got the right one there.
There we
You
go.
guys see my screen all right? All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just high level summary. This is kind of a little bit of our mission statement, a little bit of what we do. But we're in this business to provide reliable, user-friendly charging solutions specifically for utilities, municipalities, and other local government entities. We work a lot, sort of started our business working with electric cooperatives, providing charging infrastructure in rural communities throughout the Midwest, Caribbean, and other parts of the country. So we do level 2 and DC fast charge products. All of them are bundled with our software platform, which we call Zefnet. The software platform allows you to basically control all aspects of the charging infrastructure, from a load management, financial transaction, as well as general operations and maintenance. So you can do things like service ticketing, submit issues, generate reports on usage. We can also tie in with other third-party systems, which is pretty powerful tool in certain applications, whether it's tying in with a facility energy management system, a fleet management system, or a utility billing system. So our goal is to deliver end-to-end support, high quality equipment, super responsive customer service, and sort of tailoring those solutions to meet the specific needs of our customers, whether it's a fleet application, workplace charging, public charging, or a combination of those things. So we're incorporated and started business in 2014. Again, driven by quality, reliability, customer support, and bringing solutions that are reliable and work in the field to meet the needs of our customers. Today, we're working with over 160 utility and local government customers. We say nationwide. We're deployed in 43 states. We've got a few units up in Canada, and then we've got some products in some of the Caribbean islands. We've got over 6,000 units deployed, and that's a combination of level 2 and DC fast charge products. Zefenergy is employee owned. We're also, we've got a number of investors, basically a group of electric cooperative utilities. So we're employee and utility owned. We support US manufacturing as much as we possibly can. Also our support team is headquartered in the US as well. So customer support, driver support, service, and things like that. We work with a nationwide network of installer and reseller partners that can provide value-added service in addition to the hardware and software solutions that we provide. So again, it's through the software and delivering the hardware, we try to bundle that and deliver it as a total management solution. So providing the best driver experience, flexible, reliable, future-proof products. So as we get into the products, we'll talk a lot about the modularity, the ability to do control and expansion over time, transparent, and ease of ownership. So that's all through the Zefnet platform that we'll go into some detail on that. But basically, when you have the equipment deployed, the Zefnet backend is what provides total visibility into what's going on. As I mentioned, we can do integrations into other systems. So that information can be displayed in a system that you might be using to monitor other things. We do that a lot in the utility space where they've got a network operation control system that they use to monitor essentially every device on their network. We can integrate with systems like that as well. And full lifecycle management, what that is basically providing service level agreements for things like ongoing maintenance, preventative maintenance, field service as it relates to warranty repairs, and the ability to utilize the platform to flag issues, create dispatch tickets, get quotes, and essentially sort of take care of anything that you might need to do to manage the equipment all through the platform. So I'll jump a few slides over to the products real quick. So we can kind of talk about that first. Let's go here. Yeah. So our hardware. So all of our hardware, we bundle it with what we call our 5-year advantage, which means that all of our hardware, this is level 2 and DC fast charging, comes with a 5-year parts warranty, 5-year cellular data plan, 5-year software license, which includes 24/7 driver support, all of our onboarding, training, and product support as well. So that's all bundled into the pricing of our hardware. So we've got level 2. So we've got 2 different product families when it comes to level 2. So this is our standard series. So these can be wall mounted or pedestal mounted. We have wall mount cable management solutions that can be paired with these as well. So that the cable can be sort of hung off of the wall so that the users don't have to wind it back up. So there's a cable saddle that's built in that users can wind the cable back up, or they can use the automatic cable management system that's available with these. Each of the units is a single port unit. We do have pedestals that allow you to mount multiple units to a single pedestal in this product line. We go from something that goes on a 40 amp circuit, which is 7.7 kilowatts, all the way up to something that goes on a 100 amp circuit, which is a 19.2 kilowatt system. All of these products can be load controlled down to lower power levels. So you can take a 7.7 kilowatt unit and you can operate it at 2 kilowatts. As an example, if you wanted to do that for circuit sharing, panel sharing. So one of the things you mentioned was, you've got a couple of units deployed now. It's 2 ports. You want to turn it into 4 ports. We can manage that load. So if there's only a single circuit going out to each of those 2 units, and you don't want to do any electrical upgrades, we could connect 2 ports to that single circuit and manage the load so you never exceed the capacity. These units generally, yep, go for it.
Sorry to interrupt. I was wondering if that was a dynamic system or if it was sort of just a sort of static setting that would allow them to split limited capacity.
It's dynamic, so it'll be based on vehicle charge request. So,
Okay.
so if you have only one vehicle plugged in requesting power, it would have access to the full capacity of that circuit. And then if you have 2 vehicles, it would, essentially split it between the 2 vehicles.
And then if one of the 2, let's say there were 2 vehicles plugged in, splitting a circuit, if one of them were complete but still plugged in, would that be able to charge the other vehicle at full power, or even if the other one's still plugged in?
Yeah. So it's based on the specific request for charge. So if it's just plugged in, not requesting power, the other side has, access to full power. So our other product line is what we call our Pro Series. So the first one was the Standard Series. This is our Pro Series. This is a dual port pedestal mount unit. These ones are Buy America, Build America compliant. So the first series, we do all the final assembly in the US, but it doesn't meet the Buy America, Build America 55% US content requirement today. That was the Standard Series. This Pro Series that we're looking at now, again, all the assemblies in the US, and we do meet that 55% content requirement that gets us the Buy America, Build America compliance. Power level options with this one go from that same 7.7 kilowatt up to a 15.4 kilowatt. So this is something that would go 40 amp circuit up to 80 amps. We can operate these units with either a single 40, 60, or 80 amp circuit or 2 circuits. So if you operate it, if you do the install with 2 circuits, then each side, essentially always has the potential to deliver full output. If you do it with a single circuit, it implements the sharing in the same way that we were talking about previously, where it's going to base the capacity that's available on a given plug based on the number of vehicles that are plugged in and requesting a charge. So this has built-in cord management. The pedestal's just under 7 feet tall. Both product lines are fully ADA compliant if installed to code. This has an option for a built-in credit card reader. So all of the products support access control and billing through the mobile app. With the Pro series, we have the option to also add a physical credit card reader if you're going to deploy it in a public use application and you want people to just be able to, tap or swipe a credit card. That is an option. It also supports an RFID card reader, which can be utilized for mixed use applications. So it might be something that's available to the public during certain times, but also that you want your fleet drivers to be able to utilize, where you might implement using an RFID card for fleet vehicles for a number of reasons. These units, as well as the standard series, they can be branded. So this whole area here where it says Zefenergy, on both sides of the unit, that can be replaced with your own branding if you wanted to put your branding on it. There's no minimum order quantity for that, but it's an option for kind of all of our level 2 products that we can add branding to it. So this is just a little bit more kind of talking about some of the load sharing and power sharing that can be done. So what we were talking about previously is sort of circuit sharing, where you've got a single circuit, it's feeding multiple connectors. We can do the same thing at the panel level through the software. So you could have a number of units deployed. We can set a maximum power capacity so that you never exceed whatever maximum capacity we establish. In this example, it's a 400 amp panel. So we've got a number of units in here, and this is kind of highlighting if every single vehicle were connected to all the ports that are available, we can still charge all of those vehicles simultaneously, just at a much lower power level. And then as you have fewer vehicles, each vehicle has access to more power at that given time. So that's one of the really powerful tools, especially if you're doing things for fleet applications, public charging, looking to avoid demand charges based on the time of day and things like that. The platform supports a variety of different sort of load management profiles in that example. Another thing that we can do with the system is take in inputs from external loads. So our ZefNet platform can, to the extent of charging, act as sort of a building energy management system, in that we can take in inputs from other loads at the facility and adjust charging accordingly. So you may have a number of additional loads, whether it's a security gate, elevators, vehicle lifts, things like that may be activated at certain times. We can turn down power for charging based on the activity of those external loads. Let's see. We can do the same thing for renewable. So we can look at solar generation and adjust charging speed to match solar that's being generated at a site. So DC fast charging, we do have a full lineup of DC fast charge products. We've got a mobile charger. We've got a combination that's a power cabinet with remote satellite dispensers. So this is sort of a distributed system where you'll have your DC power cabinet sitting in one corner of the building, and then you'll have a number of satellites at parking spaces that are dispensing that energy from the power cabinet. And then we've got what we call the station charger, which is combining the power cabinet with the dispensers in a single footprint. On the DC product side, we can go from 25 kW in this mobile unit all the way up to 600 kilowatts in one of these larger triple cabinets. We support all the different connector types, so CCS, CHAdeMO, and NACS. with the DC products. We do have Buy America, Build America compliant options. Today, they're available in this distributed model, so the power cabinet and the satellites. Coming later this year, the station charger model will also be Buy America, Build America compliant. Let's see. So one of the big features of the DC products is the modularity and scalability of the design. So this single cabinet model can support up to 200 kilowatts, and that's done through power modules that are added to the unit in 50 kilowatt increments. So you can do a deployment with 100 kilowatts today and add an additional 100 kilowatt capacity at some time in the future. Or you could go with a double cabinet, start with 100 and go up to 400. And same thing with the triple. Each one of these cabinet designs can support up to 8 ports. So you could have a single cabinet unit at 200 kilowatts that's sharing that power across 8 different ports, or 6 different ports, or 4 different ports. So it provides a lot of flexibility in what's deployed today and what can be scaled to in the future. The other part of that same design concept is the serviceability. Because it's modular, they're very serviceable. So this is sort of the internal components. I think the next slide kind of labels it a little bit better, but so basically within these units, you've got essentially 4 components. So you've got your power modules. This dynamic module is what helps us manipulate the voltage so that we can support 400 volt architecture vehicles as well as 800 volt architecture vehicles, all from the same kind of unit. There's a control module and a switch. So 4 components, super serviceable and swappable. And also there's redundancy built in the fact that you can have multiple power modules that are not dedicated to a specific space. So from a serviceability, reliability standpoint, the architecture of this system is designed to make sure that if at all possible, a vehicle pulls up, even if you had like an unfortunate incident where a single component failed, generally that vehicle can still get a charge from the system, though it might be at like a reduced rate. Basically 95% of any issues that you might run into in the hardware are addressed with, one of 4 parts that might need to be replaced. It's about, reliability, uptime, the ability to scale in the future, and just, be able to easily support and maintain the equipment as much as possible. Now I'm going to pause there. Any questions?
Yeah, a couple of things come to mind. Wondering about, oh yeah, you talked about the level 2 chargers, at least in the first series, being able to be integrated into like a building automation system. I was wondering if that applied to both the standard series and the Pro series, and if there was an add-on that was required to sort of sit in between the charger and the BAS to allow for them to speak to one another.
So it is available on both, and it's generally it's a sort of a project development question when it relates to actually doing those integrations. No, there's generally you don't need an additional piece of hardware. It's just figuring out how our software talks to that system, and then what pieces of information we share, how often we share it, and things like that. So generally when we do those integrations, we have a conversation around what the scope is, what the system is, what are different ways that we can communicate information to it and receive information back from it, and we just sort of create an integration or development project based on that. So it's a capability. It's not necessarily included in the hardware pricing like the software licenses and things like that. some systems that we've already done integrations with, you have an easier path to kind of make those connections. And then others, we just have to figure out what protocol makes sense. We support common protocols like OpenADR. So if we're talking about like a building energy management system, we might use OpenADR 2.0. We can receive commands from the system. We can send information back using that protocol that exists kind of in our library. If we're talking about like a fleet management integration, sometimes that might be us just sending a file, doing a file transfer protocol on a periodic basis. It might be daily, weekly, monthly, just from like an information download standpoint. So it kind of depends on the system, and it depends on what we're looking to accomplish from a business case standpoint.
Great, that makes sense. You talked about the bundle that you have, sort of the 5 years, sort of all inclusive warranty, data access, soup to nuts. I was wondering at the 5 year period, assuming everything's going well, what are the options after that first 5 years?
So yeah, we do. It's usually an annual renewal after the 5 years, so it goes to a yearly. We can bundle it and do multiple years beyond the 5 years if that makes sense from a budget and accounting standpoint. But we usually go annually. For the level 2 units, it's $160 per year per port, and that includes the cellular data, 24/7 driver support, and the software license, kind of all bundled into that $160 per year per port. On the DC fast charger product side, it's $500 per year per port.
Okay, thank you. I also picked up on something. Oh yeah, you said you have a network of installer partners throughout the country. Wondered if we have a pretty good relationship with a local installer. Would we be able to continue working with that company, or do you have fixed relationships with installers in our area?
Yeah, you could work with your preferred local installer. We do have a certification program that we take them through. So on the DC fast charge and then level 2 side, we run some of the stuff's available online, so they can get some of the certifications online, and then we do periodic in-person training classes. So it's like a day and a half to 2 days. We generally host them at our facility in Minneapolis because we have equipment there. It's hands-on. So they get full training on being able to install, service, support, and then they're certified by Zefenergy for the level 2 side, and then the OEM on the DC equipment is ChemPower. So they also get that ChemPower certification as part of that training class as well. And then they can do everything. So install, preventative maintenance, service the equipment, and we hold the classes generally. Our goal is to do it every quarter, but it kind of depends on how many people want to attend at a given time and what's going on.
All right, thank you.
All right. Let me see if I can jump. I'll jump back to the software if there's no other questions on the hardware at this point. Let's see if this works. Nope. Okay. Do it this way. Okay. There we go. You guys still see my screen all right?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is the just sort of a, I'll jump into the platform, but wanted to talk just a little bit about yeah, well, actually, yeah, I'll go through a couple of slides real quick, and then I'll jump into the actual dashboard. But the whole concept behind the ZepNet platform is it's the one-stop shop for being able to get instant visibility, aggregated data usage, and just or aggregated data on the usage of the equipment, to be able to configure the equipment, whether it's for load management, power sharing, some of the dynamic charging things that we talked about. It's where you set up all of the billing. We can support different types of driver grouping and billing profiles based on the user, whether it's a fleet driver, an employee, a member of the general public. We can support different kinds of billing profiles and access profiles for all those different types of users. And basically anything that you need to look at to understand what's going on with a piece of equipment, to be able to manage a piece of equipment, or to be able to pull data for whatever type of reporting that may be required. You can do that all through the ZepNet platform. And that's where all the data is stored. That's where we would initiate those file transfers or information transfers and things like that with other systems that might be in the mix. So this is just a quick snapshot. Like I said, we'll kind of jump in, but this is an example of a group of stations that might be deployed by a company. So it's got all the individual pieces of equipment. It can give you real-time status to say, yes, this is online. Yes, this piece of equipment is in use right now. There's a little representation of the type of connector. You've got serial number information. You even would show status of like, hey, there's a service ticket on this. So that means that something might be wrong with the equipment. There's a preventative maintenance event scheduled. It's waiting on a replacement part or something like that. But that can all be viewed, managed, and acted on within the platform. So it's a super powerful resource. It's designed to make it easy to, with little effort, to see what's going on with a piece of equipment, and then also to, initiate some type of action if action is required. This is an example of the driver app. So this is what drivers would use. So there's a couple of different scenarios of driver interaction with the equipment. They may not have the app. They may come up to a unit and it's got a credit card reader, so they just use their credit card to pay for and activate the charging session. If they're not using that, if they're using the mobile app, they would have the app loaded on their phone, or there would be a QR code on the station that they could scan to download the app if they drove up to the station, didn't already have the app and wanted to be able to use it. There's a QR code they scan, they download the app. Through the app, you can see location details, so where are stations in relation to where I am. You can see availability status. So this is hey, I select this apartment complex, access is full, so that means it's open to the general public. I can see in real time through the app that these stations are currently available because they're showing as available and kind of highlighted in blue there. They would use their wallet on the app to be able to initiate a charging session, make payment. You can add and subtract funds to the app through the app at any time. So if you are traveling somewhere, it's a Zeph equipment is popular in the area where you're traveling in, but maybe not where you normally are at home. You could add $20, $30, use what you're going to use, and then at the end of your trip, you can take that money back out, and it gets returned to your bank account
Hey, Will, I do
With
have a question about
Yep.
that one. I see there it says a minimum deposit of $5. Um, is that if they're adding to something? If I'm a driver and I'm using one of these for the first time and I download your app, is there a dollar amount that I have to put there? Or is this something that I could use like my credit card to pay for so that it pays the exact amount?
You would add funds to the wallet, but then you could take them back out.
Okay, and is,
And it
I could take it 100% out?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
If
Yeah,
you
it's
were to
when you add funds, we've got that $5 sort of minimum to adding funds. But then if you're gonna take funds back out, you can, if you have $3.50, you could take that all out.
Thank you.
I was going to mention, Alicia, there is the credit card reader option too, where you would not need to use this app at all. If you just wanted to pay the
Okay,
exact amount on your credit card, the Pro Series, it's just like a transaction at a convenience store. It's
okay,
then you're avoiding it.
thank you.
Um,
And if you could just outline that when you're doing the costs for us. I had thought that there was a question, and I could be wrong, initially asking if we had to have that. So if that's something that it costs extra to have that card reader on there versus just going and downloading the app. Just let us know what those cost differences are.
we'll make sure we note that.
Yeah, and that's kind of the user app experience. So it's a few screens that they interact with, finding the equipment, making sure it's accessible, and then sort of the billing element to it as well. Yeah, I think so. Let me hop from here over to, well, actually, so what we kind of talked about in the software platform earlier here is you've got these sort of icons that you can view in the dashboard to see if something has a service ticket. And why is that important? For us, it's because in the real world, stuff happens to the equipment, whether it's a failure of some electronic module, vandalism, some stuff happens. The equipment needs to be serviced in the field. So the sort of flow of that is there's an error with the equipment. You can see errors that happen in the ZefNet platform. From there, you can create a service ticket, and we can, through our own network, dispatch a trained service technician, or if you have your local contractor that's trained up and does service, they can be notified that, hey, there's a service issue on this piece of equipment. Looks like it's a warranty issue. Did you want to go out and service that equipment? When are you going to service it? And so we can kind of serve that information up and keep it as transparent as possible through the platform, which can be kind of helpful in making sure that it moves forward smoothly. Some of the things that we're really focused on as it relates to deploying the equipment. Part of the reason that we require our installers to go through certification is to make sure that the installation, the initial commissioning is done properly. Everyone understands the flow of the work. The equipment gets installed correctly, it gets verified, it gets online correctly, and you have just a really smooth process as it relates from the time that a piece of equipment shows up at a facility till it's actually in the ground and operating. So super critical. We spend a lot of time and like intentional effort on making sure that we identify the appropriate equipment, but then also we have a smooth process, smooth handoffs as it relates to actually getting that equipment installed, operational, and then from an ongoing sort of service and maintenance standpoint. So there's a whole set of steps there. And then another part of our offering is service level agreements. So we offer service level agreements. If your local installer were to go through the service training, they would be able to offer their own type of service level agreement. We've got sort of two different categories. We've got a preventative maintenance, which is just a contract. We sell it annually, and it means someone's going to come out to the site once a year, do an inspection of the equipment, replace consumable parts, things like air filters and things like that when it comes to the DC fast charging equipment, and provide a field service report. Then we also have a additional level of the SLA that covers warranty field labor. So it allows you to sort of bundle those costs, have a single price point, to make sure that you're covered if there is any kind of warranty issue. When it comes to preventative maintenance, that's like that should happen. Whether it's done through the local contractor or through a service level agreement with Zef, that one's sort of like more of a must-have. The next level service agreement that includes field labor for warranty issue, that's more of like an insurance policy. So that one is like, well, if a warranty issue does happen, the warranty that we provide covers the parts. It doesn't necessarily cover the person coming out and doing the field work. You can pay for that on an annual basis ahead of time, or pay as it happens. And so those are kind of the different service level agreement options that we also offer, as part of our catalog. And I'm going to jump screens over to the software platform. And, if you guys have any questions at this point, feel free. I can.
Then you just need KWH.
I was wondering, I'm going to miss this earlier. The OCPP compliance. I was just wondering about your interoperability for both the software and the hardware that you've shown us so far.
Yeah, everything is we're OCPP 1.6. And that's hardware, software. So if you deploy the equipment and decide that you want to go with a different network service provider because of you're not happy with us or whatever the case may be, we do have a process to work with that vendor to get the equipment transferred over to their network through OCPP. It's we've actually only done it, we've done it in both scenarios. So we've had our equipment go onto another network, and then we've also taken over equipment from one network onto ours. It works the best and the smoothest if the two vendors collaborate on it. There may be like things that may happen is you may have to change out a SIM card. And then it's kind of pointing the equipment from one back end to the next, is the practical reality of it, in our experience at least. It's open to your classic open standard protocol that just always works, which works really well if you work together to kind of make those changeovers. So
great. Okay, thank you.
So this is the ZefNet platform. This is a like sales demo version of it. So some of the numbers look a little bit weird sometimes because it's like stuff that's in our employees' garages and in test benches and stuff like that. So because you can do everything with the equipment in here, I like to play in the safe sandbox kind of environment. But so a couple of examples. So this is the dashboard. I'm looking at, aggregated usage information across all the devices. We can have devices grouped into different locations. So if you have some equipment in one facility, some equipment in another, you can separate those out. So you can look at them all together or at individual locations, or even at individual devices if you wanted to, from this dashboard. So this is just kind of giving general usage statistics. All of this stuff is exportable. You can set up automated reporting so that on a monthly basis, you get a report on, the average time of a session, or when people are using the power, how much power they're using, total usage over a given time. There's a number of sort of kind of, canned, somewhat customizable reports that you can set up to happen on an automated basis, to get that usage information if you need it for reporting, tracking, any kind of things like that. You can also set up different groups of drivers so that you could, for example, look at usage for fleet vehicles or fleet drivers versus workplace charging versus the general public. All things that you can set up grouping for and then view data individually or as a group. Let's see. So this is a view of, we kind of looked at this in one of the slides, but this is just a real-time view of some devices that are out there. You can see if it's available. This little lock symbol means it requires some type of authorization, whether that's an RFID card or a credit card because it's set up for billing. If the lock's not there, it means that it's open for use, open for the general public. We've got an example here of one that's in an error condition. So there's a fault on the equipment, and you can see that there's already been a service ticket created for it. So we can see that there's an issue, and then someone's gone in and created a ticket for that piece of equipment. You can drill into the detail. Like last time it was communicating. You can click in and see specific device details. So communication reliability, signal strength. So we can see this one's 100% online. It's got really good signal strength. Average kilowatts per day. A cumulative meter reading as of the last, this is, we do it on 5-minute increments. So this updates like every 5 minutes. So just a whole bunch of information that you can see on the given devices as much as you want to drill down into it. You can do things like usage reporting, which could be, aggregated. You can set up custom time periods. We could look at like monthly usage for all the devices, or we could look at just fleet devices, individual facilities. This one will take a second to populate because it's pulling 3 months of data, but and then you can see all that information there. What else?
Just a quick question. Is this exportable to Excel as well? I see a download button. Do you have options for how that's okay?
Yeah, it would just be a CSV, and then with this, if we wanted to set up automatic file transfers to different types of systems, we could do that through like a CSV. We could do it through JSON is another software language or protocol that they use for sending those packets of information from one system to another. So this is where you can set up different groups. So this is could be a group of stations. It could be a group of drivers. So this is where we might set up a group of employees or fleet drivers. that might have a different billing structure. They might have a different access structure to the equipment that's deployed. You might have equipment deployed that only fleet drivers can access. And you can kind of control and manage all that through the software, and also have that information be visible through the app, so that a member of the general public doesn't try to go to a station that's designated for fleet only use or workplace only use, and things like that. So this is where we kind of create different groups. We can set up different control settings. So this is where we might set different parameters around, like the time of day, the power that's available. So you might create a profile for equipment that says, every day of the week, between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m., it's open access. And you can use as much power as available, but then after 4 p.m., it's going to set a maximum power usage of, 20 kilowatts for the whole site. And, you might have 4 or 5 stations there. You can do things like that for different types of like load control, peak demand charge avoidance, and variety of different scenarios. You can set it up so it's only available Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. when the office is open, because you don't want drivers going to that parking lot over the weekend, or for it's only for employees during regular business hours and stuff like that. So there's a whole bunch of potential use cases that can be managed through these controls, through the driver grouping, and I'm throwing out a bunch of generic examples, but as you guys get into it and as you have specific things that you want to do, this is where we would kind of like talk about it, and then we would help you be able to configure the system to support whatever the use case and sort of desired outcome is. We can do it in a number of ways through the platform. Yeah, so then there's billing, where we set up billing profiles. We can do billing based on a flat fee per unit of time, per kilowatt hour. We support also what's called like idle fees. So someone plugs in, they finish charging, but they don't unplug or move their car. You can escalate billing and switch it over to bill based on time, if someone, to encourage the space to be turned over. And then we can also stack all of those billing profiles on top of each other. So you could have a connection fee, which would be like, $2. Then you charge per kilowatt hour. And then, hey, if you don't unplug 30 minutes after you stop charging, we're going to charge you, $15 an hour or whatever to stay plugged in. So all those things can be implemented into a billing profile for a given piece of equipment. The way the sort of remittance process works. So if we're doing the billing, whether it's through the mobile app, through credit card reader on the station, we send out a monthly billing report on the first of the month, right around the first of the month, that says, hey, here's all the usage. This is what was billed, and this is the amount that we're going to be sending you. Zeph retains 10% as a processing and sort of service fee for that, and then 90% gets sent out around the 15th of the month, either through ACH or a physical paper check. So you get the billing report on the first of the month, and then the payment right around the middle of the month for the previous month's transactions.
While we're on payments and things, just thinking about it from the perspective of our finance department, our business management team, they for auditing purposes, they really prefer that we're able to keep fees separate from revenues whenever possible. So I just want to make sure that that was possible here, that if there are session fees, processing fees, transaction kinds of things, that we'd be able to keep them. They wouldn't automatically come out of revenue, that they would be sort of either assignable to a user or tracked individually and potentially even billed separately?
Yeah, on the remittance reports today, the 10% that goes to Zeph shows as a line item. So it would be a separate. You would have your total, your Zeph service fee, and then the remittance amount. As you know, the Zeph service fee would be a negative. So yeah, it shows it as its own line item, the same as we can do for taxes and things like that. So if there's taxes, duties, things that are required to be paid as part of selling electricity as a fuel, that's also line itemed on there, as separate, but yeah, separate lines on the report. Yeah.
Okay,
I don't know. Is that kind of line up with what you're talking about?
I think so. Yeah, I think at a minimum it needs to be separately tracked. So so it's sort of really clear per transaction, what the revenue is, what the fees are, and then wondered about the ability to assign session fees to the session user, the participant at that point, or if we just need to set our overall rate to accommodate the 10%.
Yeah, you would set your overall rate to accommodate the 10%.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and we can provide an example of the remittance report if you guys like, because send it over to the accounting folks and let them say if that's okay or not. And if they need it if they need it some way different, let us know what it is and we'll see if we can accommodate it. But it's generally, I would say it's generally acceptable. We work with a lot of cities, counties, towns, and generally okay. So. Yeah, let's see. So yeah, it's the billing. This is different access pools. So this is like different types of driver groups actually, where you can sort of set up access profiles and things like that for different types of drivers. We've got some interesting kind of mixed use cases where we might have multiple fleets that share equipment along with the public. So we use driver grouping in those scenarios to be able to split out and report on utilization from a account reconciliation standpoint. So like the cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul. So we've got 270 ports deployed between the Twin Cities, and it's utilized. The equipment is utilized by the public. It's utilized by a rideshare fleet, which is a it's its own private sector company, and it's utilized by city fleet vehicles from both Minneapolis and St. Paul. Sometimes St. Paul might use some equipment in Minneapolis's territory and vice versa. And so we're able to, through this driver grouping, provide reports that says, okay, the rideshare fleet used this much power, and then they reconcile that and do back billing to that fleet for the power that they used. Your fleet vehicles use this, their fleet vehicles use this, and we provide all that reporting to their folks so they can make their kind of accounting adjustments around how that utilization gets allocated internally. And we support all that through this different driver grouping. So when they get their their remittance reports, they also get some additional reports along with it around what these driver groups utilized, so that they can do kind of reconciliation internally around fleet billing versus public and things like that. So we can support sort of separating that data out and then reporting on it, so that folks can make those adjustments if necessary, right? it's one of the things that comes up quite often with our customers that are utilizing equipment that they've deployed for both public and fleet scenarios. Ultimately, they want to know what the fleet vehicles use, so they can tie that back from an accounting standpoint. You might want to know the same thing if you open it up for employee charging, and we say, hey, employees can have free charging. Well, what does that actually mean from a power utilization, from a cost standpoint? And we can set up those groups and report on all those things as well.
Yeah, that's good to know. We have a situation, similar kind of thing at town hall where it's sort of employee access during the day up until 4 p.m. and then switches over to fleet only for, people ending their shift, overnight charge. And then that fleet charging is currently they're both free, but they access in different ways. Fleet uses RFID cards. The employees would have the app, and they'd sort of be certified with a connection to the town to be able to access the stations during the open hours. And and there's no public access at that plug, but there is right next door at the two charging plugs for the public. So good to know that y'all have these groups and the ability to not only manage in that way, but also tweeze out the power usage by each group.
Yeah. So yeah, the last one is service ticketing here. See if this loads up. So this is I'm looking at, I think, all devices here, right? So this is like all my devices that I manage. And so someone in the city that manages a variety of different devices can go, and in a single screen they can see, hey, what's the status? I know I've got some service tickets open. There's some issue out there, and you can kind of in real time see, hey, this is the ticket, this is what the issue is. This is from Zeph's standpoint. So waiting on the customer means we would be waiting on, if this is your guys' equipment that you're looking at, it says waiting on customer, oh, hey, they're waiting on a response from me. Awaiting dispatch, that would be on us. So you're waiting on us to dispatch the technician. Open just means it's open, and there's no pending action right now. So that would be one to kind of look at as well. But yeah, so it's just a quick and easy way to see what's going on with any given piece of equipment out there, and then you can kind of expand on it. You can see notes in real time, the most recent communication, and things like that. And again, these are internal ones, so if it says anything funky in there, I'm not responsible. Don't read too closely. Sometimes if the service guys get bored, sometimes there's funny stuff in there. So, anyways.
Would we be able to set up an alert if there was an issue? I sort of take it that any service ticket would be initiated by us. So just in case I'm not in the system when a charger goes down, is there an alert that gets routed to my email or that kind of thing? And is that customizable?
Yeah, we can do email alerts, and then and it's really in setting those up. It's how we customize them. So what things are going to trigger an email? What's the time limit around it? So like the minimum time limit that we like to do is, well, even this we think is a little bit aggressive, but we do have a customer that we do 15-minute. So if something isn't checking in, there's a fault, and it's not cleared within 15 minutes because we pull at 5-minute increments, we're sending out a notification. When you look at things like cell connectivity, and it depends on the application how frequently you might really want to do it. 15 minutes might be a little bit aggressive. It's about as close as we like to go, because if you do it 5 minutes, like it's too much. But yes, it's customizable. It's just a matter of figuring out what things trigger it and what that frequency is or what that flag is. And we just work to set that up with you guys based on, you know, what the application is and, you know, how often you want to be pinged on stuff. So.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and we also, as a caveat, just to, you know, we don't catch everything. So we only catch the things that we know about. Like someone goes up and smashes the thing with a baseball bat and they break the credit card reader. Like we don't necessarily know about that till someone pulls up and, you know, tries to use it and then says, hey, this thing's broken. Stuff like that. Cable cuts, although we're working on our next generation product, we'll be able to detect a cable cut, but that's not available yet today. So if someone like cuts a cable, like we don't know until someone says, hey, this cable got cut. We run into that scenario more in like urban environments. Like we've got curbside charging throughout Minneapolis, St. Paul. Cables get cut there.
Yeah, it's happened to us a couple times. Luckily, not nearly as often as in some places, like you say. In the case where a user, a public user, were to call in an issue, is the system integrated so that it would show up here? That would begin a ticket, and then it would show up here in the screen that you're showing.
It would, yeah. And if you're also set up for the notifications, you would get a notification of that too.
Okay.
So yeah, they would call our 24/7 support. You know, they do a little bit of diagnosis. Cables cut, that's an obvious one. They create a ticket. This is what needs to happen, and then that starts the kind of workflow internally on getting you notified, and ultimately, you know, working towards getting it fixed up and running again.
Okay, so we've made it to the bottom of the menu. It looks like.
Yeah, that's the walkthrough of it. And you know, again, pretty general, and you know, I tried to kind of give some examples of you know, of what we can do. There's certainly more that I probably, you know, didn't cover everything. But as we really understand, you know, the specifics around the deployments, the use cases, and how you want, you know, the equipment to operate, the platform is super flexible. We've got a lot of capabilities built in there to be able to, you know, usually address every type of kind of workflow application scenario that might come up, or at least get you close. If it's something crazy that we haven't heard of before, a lot of times we can at least you know, throw you a monthly report with the information.
No, it sounds good. The only other notes that I have for myself, if we're starting to maybe wrap up, thinking about the you know, Alicia mentioned the pricing that we're interested in getting from you guys. I think we've already talked about the 5-year bundle. I think that's great to have all of those things included. That's what we're likely going to be, you know, modeling anyway. And then I'm very curious about the RFID option, to have that included. As I mentioned, we have excuse me, RFID tags as something that we're using for fleet management purposes and access control. And then interested about the different service levels, the pricing of those service levels as well, and if that's on a per port basis, or how that's applied.
Okay. Yeah, we can provide all that. Did
Is
you?
a
Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
Go
Jim.
ahead. I was going to say, is a spreadsheet okay? Since we're
Yes, the spreadsheet will be fine.
going over all the different possibilities, it'd probably be easier
Yes.
to do it as a spreadsheet.
That would be fine.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Michael and Brennan, did you have any additional questions?
I do
Or
not.
Jim and Will, do you have questions that you want to ask us?
I don't have a question. I have a favor to ask of you, Alicia. Could you
Okay.
please send me a copy of this recording?
Yes, I certainly will.
I would greatly appreciate that.
Absolutely.
One other thing came to my mind. Wondered about in some of the chargers that we have are set up on a gateway and client kind of basis, and they're in sort of groups of 10 in that way, where one gateway is sort of serving all of them. Is that the way that your chargers are set up, or are they each individually equipped with a SIM card or modem kind of thing?
Yeah, they're each equipped with a SIM card. Actually, two. So we've got the default network is Verizon, and then we've got a secondary modem and SIM card that operates on AT&T, T-Mobile, and US Cellular. And then we have an auto failover on the cellular side. So we're basically always looking to see which has the best data signal. And if a signal drops below a certain threshold, we'll hop over to another network if it has a better signal at a given time. We can also do failover with additional network connections through Wi-Fi. So you could have the primary connectivity set up as Wi-Fi or cellular, and if it'll do the auto, so your primary is cellular, we'll do the auto failover to another cellular network first. If that's still not looking good, then we would fail over to Wi-Fi. Vice versa. If your primary network is Wi-Fi, the signal strength goes down, we'll hop over to cellular and implement those sort of picking the best network. We can also support that on Ethernet with the DC fast charge products as well.
Yeah, that sounds really useful. Yeah, most of the issues that we run into are connectivity problems.
Yeah.
So great.
Yeah, we've got recommendations on testing signal strength and tips on doing that and equipment to use to do that ahead of installations. We can utilize cell signal repeaters, signal boosters, and things like that. So there's a number of things that we can kind of throw at it to try and address that as best as possible. But we found that all that plus having a failover and backup really helps with connectivity. And it's part of the first 5 years of the company, we're deploying equipment in rural parts of the country. Not necessarily great cellular, maybe not even great Ethernet. Maybe not even a great hardwired network and stuff like that. So we kind of built the platform to be able to hang on to whatever's working.
Sounds good. Mike, any other questions on your side?
No question.
You may have already said that. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, then if there are no additional questions, I would like to say, Jim and Will, thank you so very much for showing us your product. And we look forward to getting your spreadsheet that will give us some numbers behind it. And what we'll do at this point, we'll take a look at your presentation. We'll take a look at the requirements document that you've provided, as well as your cost estimates, and see if that meets our needs. And if it meets our need, we'll reach out to you regarding contract negotiations and look to see when you may be able to start implementation. Just one question, if you can just let me know, typically once a contract is signed, from the kickoff date to go live, what is your estimated implementation timeline or timeframe?
Right now, I can say in terms of equipment lead time, we're looking at 13 weeks, 13 plus weeks on the Pro Series. And the Standard Series is running 5 to 6 weeks. A lot of that depends on what's required to make the site ready. So if there's any additional equipment, panels, transformers, circuit breakers that need to be supplied to the site, you'd have to get your installing contractor to kind of outline what that timetable would be. But those are times.
Okay, thank you so very much.
Alicia, when do you need our pricing by? We'll start to work on it right away, but is there a drop dead time that you need this by?
If you could have it to me by end of next week, that would be great.
Next week. No problem. I think we'll be able to get it to you sooner.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Any other questions? If not, I will give you back some of your day. I can only give you back 9 minutes, but at least I give you back 9 minutes of your life. So thank you so very much. I really appreciate you taking this time for us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much, Joe.
Bye.
Thank you.
Oh, we lost Michael.
Yeah, let's jump on the other call.